regards to drafting and taking action on the white paper on shoreline setbacks. I've asked Chip to lead us through it, and he's got his computer all set up. So I think we can just continue where we were in terms of going through the paper and bringing in all of our edits now that we've all had a chance to read a clean copy. So go for it, Chip.
Okay, so I took what was completed on, what was it, Friday? Whenever we last met, and just accepted all the edits. And then started at the top and had some suggestions that I would like the commission to consider.
Actually, can I
Yep.
jump in real quick?
Mhm.
So Christine did take the draft that we ended with and put in a works cited, as well as standardize some of the to MLA endnotes all into sort of one citation format. Is that the draft you went off of?
Was it sent by
Whatever I
Brian?
received an email from you, I believe.
Yeah, I forwarded you what Christine had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Is Christine here?
No.
I did want to acknowledge her incredible help with an early draft of this, and also the tables that are in the appendix and that are in the main body of the text. She did a lot of work. Does this need to be larger?
Yeah,
please.
slightly.
It does for me.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so I just added several comments here. So this was yours, McKenna. This was noting that we needed to change the
Citation.
citation. Thank you. Yeah, just fill in when my brain doesn't
Well,
work.
can you just scroll down to make sure this is her version? Go down.
Okay.
If there's a works cited section, then it's Christine's latest version.
Like all the way at the end of this?
Yeah.
Actually, can we, after your poll, can you go to number 1? We load it up there.
Yep.
ROH 23, no, include a chapter context that the ROH 20.
Yep.
We just do a find and replace for that at the end.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can find and replace.
Was that it? I didn't hear your last comment.
Oh, Vicky is suggesting we just do a find and replace. So
Oh.
find,
We can do that at the end.
Okay.
There's some more down in
Yeah.
5,
Okay.
6.
Remove caps. They aren't in the other bullets.
Oh,
oh, yep, mm-hmm.
And there's a few chapters needed here.
What did this say before?
A robust.
A robust, okay.
Noel, can I ask you, given you're from DPP, do these last 2 points, does this point 7 resonate with you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Is this strong enough, Noel? It's important that DPP have requisite resources to put forth. Basically asking for more money. People, right. Should the word about be right here? New information about sea level rise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody
Oh,
else have anything?
chapter. Sorry. Good.
Guidance instead of white paper. Actually,
Mhm.
that was
Yep.
Christine's.
No different.
Should the, that background and context be all caps? It just seems like it's not as important as the introduction and like the sections below it.
Up here?
Yeah, I feel like it should be all capped.
You like that?
Yeah.
Citation. All right, I'll find one later.
No, I think that's old. I think that was
Oh.
the citation we found. I think that's the emissions gap report,
Okay.
and that we needed to, I think that's addressed.
Is nationally determined contributions a capitalized phrase?
No.
Unconditional nationally determined
I think they are,
contributions.
and.
I think- yeah, I
NDCs.
think
Okay,
it is,
I just
you're right.
wasn't sure.
Any comments from anyone? The next one I have is here.
Mhm.
We hadn't really spelled out that acronym.
Mhm.
I didn't think we had. I did a quick search above in the doc, but I couldn't find it.
Really?
Mhm. Yeah, we actually just read out sea level rise previously.
Okay.
It's
think
kind
it's
of weird to
clear.
introduce it halfway through when we've used it so
Well, it's in like
much.
the introduction and background section.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Something's
That makes
wrong.
it clear in the,
In the points.
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
Yeah.
keeping it like that, I think is good.
What are we using here? Arial 11. Was it just Arial normal?
I think it's in the narrow,
Or narrow, actually?
Narrow.
So I have the news release here. Was the yellow for something else?
It was to check those numbers.
Yeah, which we did
Which I think we
last
did.
week.
Okay.
And then it looks like Christine did add a citation. There's a footnote on that sentence now. You can check what she had put there, but.
Yep, great. This may be as far as I've gotten. Yep. How do you want to handle the rest of it? Read through it? I could just read you guys to sleep.
I checked the rest of it, went through and didn't find any obvious typos.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
Was happy
neither
with the
did
rest
I.
of it.
So, yeah, let's start.
Read through it? All right. I'll start with two here. Global sea level rise. In late 2019, the United Nations emissions gap report okay. I was wondering about the caps.
I don't think that needs to be
Bold?
bolded.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a.
In late 2019, the United Nations emissions gap report projected that global greenhouse emissions are on track to warm 3.2 C, 5.8 Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels by 2100. If we rely only on the unconditional nationally determined contributions of the Paris Agreement. This indicates continued and accelerating sea level rise through this century. Several other sources, such as the July 2019 Global Energy Outlook by Resources for the Future, draw supportive conclusions. In Volume 1 of the fourth
So
national...
Can I make a really small edit?
Say again?
Can I make a really small edit?
Yeah.
Just delete "we" and say "if relying only on the unconditional."
Do I keep the Y? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And then rather than supportive conclusion, draw similar conclusions. Yeah.
In Volume 1 of the Fourth National Climate Assessment, NCA 4, Climate Science Special Report, 2017, it was found that relative to the year 2000 global mean sea level, GMSL, is very likely, 90% to 100% likelihood, to rise by 0.3 to 0.6 feet, centimeters by 2030, 0.5 to 1.2 feet and centimeters by 2050, and 1 to 4.3 feet by 2100, very high confidence in lower bounds, etc. It was also found that the future greenhouse gas emissions pathways have little effect on projected global mean sea level rise in the first half of the century, but significantly affect projections in the second half of the century, high confidence.
Did we spell out GMSL?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we did, yep, sorry.
Right there,
Mhm,
yep.
Yep, okay.
Emerging science regarding Antarctic ice sheet stability suggests that for high emissions scenarios, a global mean sea level rise exceeding 8 feet, 2.4 meters by 2100 is physically possible, although the probability of such an extreme outcome cannot currently be assessed. Regardless of pathway, it is extremely likely that GMSL rise will continue beyond 2100 high confidence. So there's no space here.
Yeah.
Should there or not? Is that good? Put it into
So
same.
in my draft, there is, it's separate, but
So, okay.
it doesn't
There we
matter to
go.
me. Okay, yeah.
Got it. To address this problem, a structured expert judgment published in May 2019 identifies a 10% chance of GMSL exceeding 6.5 feet or 2 meters by the end of the century.
I think to address this problem doesn't make sense. It's not modifying the right I think maybe just say in addition, a structured expert judgment.
Okay.
And then we can bring it to the paragraph above, the design
Okay.
thinking.
And then, do we need to put a comma after May, for 2019, and then just like May 2019?
Anybody have a, I always,
I don't know.
I don't know. In addition,
Bear with me,
are we good?
Yep.
Structured expert judgment published in May 2019 identifies a 10% chance of GMSL exceeding by the end of the century. Accelerating sea level rise.
We've already defined SLR.
Okay, will increase the damage caused by all types of coastal hazards.
Oh, no, we've already defined
No.
SLR, so go back to.
Just keep SLR?
But can
Yeah.
we do this later? Can we like write a note that says find and replace all to SLR and ROH 23s? Because I think we can do that.
Later, yeah.
That can like something that we can do
Else
later.
someone else can do,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And what are we searching for? Sea level rise?
to SLR once introduced and ROH 23 to ROH chapter 23. Yeah.
Local impacts. The Honolulu Thai Station records local mean sea level rising 1.49 plus or minus millimeters per year. In 2017, the State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission adopted the Hawaii Sea Level Rise Adaptation and Vulnerability Report, providing the first statewide assessment of Hawaii's vulnerability to sea level rise and recommendations to reduce exposure and sensitivity to sea level rise while increasing the capacity of Hawaii's communities to adapt.
It's a long one, but it's okay.
Yeah, so
God, is that one sentence?
you could change to sea level rise, the one that's not, well anyways, whatever.
That whole thing is one
Just do-
sentence.
Yeah.
In the report title, it's vulnerability before adaptation.
Oh, it is? Okay, so, no, this little thing is a separate sentence then. So say again, Matt?
Sea level rise, vulnerability and adaptation report, right?
Ah.
The title,
Yeah.
yeah.
In 2017, the State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission adopted the Hawaii Sea Level Rise Vulnerability and Adaptation Report, period.
Yeah, it provides.
It provides the first statewide assessment of Hawaii's vulnerability to sea level rise and makes recommendations
Yeah.
to reduce exposure and sensitivity to sea level rise while increasing the capacity of Hawaii's communities to adapt. The report provides a statewide assessment of the combined assets that are exposed to coastal hazards as a result of sea level rise. With 1 foot or 30 centimeters of sea level rise, the land and building value on Oahu that is exposed to erosion, groundwater inundation, and storm drain backflow, and/or seasonal high seasonal waves sums to over 4.1 billion, including 5 will be displaced. At 3.2 feet of sea level rise, a total 12.9 billion of land and building 12.9 billion of land and building value are exposed, with over 13,000 residents displaced. In addition, the Hawaii Department of Transportation has identified 38 miles of roadway at risk.
Just kind of like a question, this doesn't take into account, this is like residents, as in people who own parcels who will be displaced, this doesn't necessarily take into account like houseless people. Is that correct? Okay,
Or visitors.
or visitors, but yeah.
Yeah, my understanding of how this was done, it was straight from the census.
Okay.
Mapping the census onto the.
The report recommends that the sea level rise exposure area with 3.2 feet of sea level rise be used. Recommends that the sea level rise exposure area with, quote, 3.2 feet of sea level rise be used as a statewide vulnerability zone for planning at state, county, and community levels. Does that hold together grammatically?
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the like
The homeless?
people and, yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering if like we can put a sentence in there just to say that these numbers are an underestimate of people who will be impacted.
Yes.
Because we don't have, we aren't accounting for,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Where, let me
just
find
something
where
that it's
we-
an underestimate.
Approximately 2,000 residents, so.
But it's strange because it's also an overestimate, right? Like because of the time dimensionality.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just dissatisfied with, I
Right.
mean, I know these are not our numbers, but I just
Right.
wanna kinda.
Can we just, instead of putting a value judgment, that'll be more or less just say, these estimates of residents, these estimates of
Are-
Don't
displacement do
include
not
houseless
include
Yeah.
houseless or
populations
or
Maybe
in
they
that
do
area.
though. Are houseless not residents?
No, I think residents
They're not
refers
captured
to
in the
like,
census.
they're not counted in the census,
Ah.
right?
They're not
Yeah.
counted, so they're not in there, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea,
How-
Vicky, is just.
What was the
So
recommendation?
after 13,300 residents displaced, put in a sentence,
Yeah,
right
13,
there.
yeah,
Put in a,
Okay,
just
we,
the next line down.
we also have it at 1 foot here, so we have 2,000 residents at 1 foot.
yeah, so this would be after the 13,300, just a statement about the residents displaced.
Something
House-
like the estimate of affected population does not include, include houseless population?
Houseless populations and visitors.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's good.
okay.
It's more
Thank
clear
you.
about what it does include and what
Yeah,
it doesn't, yeah.
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 Okay. Report recommends that already did that. The results of the report and the recommendations highlight the need to incorporate the 3.2 Slerexa in land use planning, prioritize smart redevelopment outside the Slerexa. Should be 3.2 Slerexa, right? That's Slerexa 3.2. Improve flood risk management. Address cultural and environmental vulnerabilities that encourage resilient land and community development, and create funding sources for research, adaptation, monitoring, and collaboration. At the University of Hawaii at Manoa, the PAC IU's program publicly serves the Hawaii Sea Level Rise Viewer, which provides maps downloadable as GIS layers showing modeled impacts, flooding, erosion, wave runup of sea level rise at increments derived from the fifth assessment report, AR5 of the IPCC. These model results were used in the Hawaii Sea Level Rise Adaptation and Vulnerability Report in their impact assessment.
We have to change the title there as well.
Coastal.
Vulnerability, the Hawaii sea level rise
Oh,
vulnerability and adaptation report. There you go.
coastal erosion. During sea level rise, the beach environment, which extends offshore into the surf zone and onshore across the coastal dune system, is forced to retreat landward, and so during beachfront land is eroded. If this land has not been altered by landscaping and other forms of development, and if it is sand-rich, such as with a dune field or other types of geologic sand deposits, erosion of this land will supply the migrating beach with its lifeblood, sand. Even if a beach is backed by alluvial or volcanic geology, bless you, depending on specific coastal processes at the site, a beach may continue to exist through sand delivery from alongshore and/or offshore sources. Though a widely held view is that coastal erosion can be managed, attempts to stop coastal erosion, such as with a wall or revetment, will damage, narrow, and eventually destroy the beach.
I have a question.
Yep.
Back in the previous paragraph.
Yep.
So my reading is the beach, this is the first sentence, the beach environment, blah, 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 is forced to retreat landward.
Yep.
shouldn't it just be retreats landward, or
Okay,
just, it just was anthropomorphizing a little bit?
all right.
Yeah, also, yeah, the life, are you talking about the life force? No, wait, are you talking about?
Lifeblood.
Lifeblood.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
must have seen like a movie of some sort.
I was also, yeah, that was another thing where I was like, I don't know.
Erosion of this land will supply the migrating beach with sand.
Okay.
It's a little less emotional, impactful.
Oh.
It's sand. Sand. Okay. Though a widely held view is that coastal erosion can be managed, attempts to stop coastal erosion, such as with the wall of revetment, will damage, narrow, and eventually destroy the beach. A wall of any type will also cause flanking, accelerated erosion to a neighboring property. So we said that up in the in the guidelines.
Mhm.
Do we care?
This is kind of where we're describing it again, and I think that's important enough that it should be, I'm okay with it
Okay.
reading twice.
As well as wave reflection, energy transmitted seaward by waves that bounce off a wall and disrupt
That's where
incident
you
waves.
put a parentheses after bounce off a wall, and then,
Oh, so you
previously.
edited it up about.
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is like very similar.
Wall of any type will also cause flanking, as well as wave reflection, and disrupt incident waves, benthic ecosystems, and water quality. If allowed to migrate landward with the rising ocean levels, beaches can adapt to and survive sea level rise as they have for 20,000 years since global sea level was over 420 feet lower at the culmination of the last ice age. When seawalls and other forms of shoreline hardening are used to protect homes and roads from the effects of erosion, it provides a temporary reprieve, but eventually leads to beach narrowing and beach loss. Beach narrowing and loss represents the destruction of a critical and diverse natural ecosystem essential to a number of endangered federally protected species, monk seals and sea turtles. The loss of recreational value for residents and tourists alike, as well as loss of cultural and intrinsic value. From a legal perspective, it is also the loss of a public trust.
Can we switch, cultural and intrinsic value with recreational value? Like, just the order?
Yep.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
The loss of cultural and intrinsic value, comma, as well as loss of recreational value for residents and tourists alike. Does that work?
Thank you.
From a legal perspective, it is also the loss of a public trust asset. And what was your reference? Summers. King tides. In 2017, the Honolulu Tide Station recorded the highest water levels in its 112-year record. The scientific term for a king tide is a perigee spring tide. King tides in Hawaii tend to occur during the summer months, July and August, and winter months. In conjunction with new moons and full moons, record-setting king tides occur when the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its monthly orbit, so the gravitational pull is stronger. When the sun, the moon, and Earth are in alignment, which means, is that a period?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
yeah, that
period.
works. Which means that the sun and moon's individual gravitational pulls work together, producing the highest tides of the year.
Should,
Yep.
This means.
wait, this means, yeah.
Yeah, not which makes it confusing.
This means
This
Mhm.
means, yeah.
water levels rise an additional amount above the pure tide components and reach unusual heights. Warmer than usual sea surface temperatures, winds, and ocean circulation patterns can add this additional component in some cases. The timing of these extreme water level events can be anticipated through the use of tidal predictions, yet their impacts, coastal flooding and inundation in low-lying areas, can have devastating consequences for coastal inhabitants, particularly when combined with severe weather or high wave events. With continued sea level rise, Hawaii can expect more frequent and more extensive high tide flooding, including monthly and even daily high tides exceeding coastal inundation thresholds. Typically, intensifying high tide flooding is the first evidence of sea level rise experienced by a community. Thompson et al. Modeled the occurrence of high tide flooding in Honolulu and found that by the year 2030, the intermediate and intermediate high scenarios proposed by NOAA may lead to an average 48 and 131 days per year of high tide flooding, respectively.
This is a long sentence.
The frequency of flooding more than triples from 75 to 246 days per year on average from the 30s to 40s. By the decade of the 30s, the NOAA intermediate scenario, 1 meter.
Hey,
Do you want?
Jeff, can we like break up one of the sentences there? Some,
Yep.
just was like super long. Can we put a period after the 2017 episode?
Start by 2040.
Yeah, and then just start the new sentence with by 2040, comma. Yeah, it just was like crazy long.
Yep.
By 2040, something like it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's projected that
It is projected, yeah.
there will be,
By 2040, it is projected that?
Yeah.
projected that there will be.
It is projected there will be. Yeah. It is projected there will be 100.
Will.
That's a lot of.
Okay. The frequency of flooding more than triples, we did that. Do you want an EG here? McKenna?
Hmm?
Do you want an EG at
From-
this?
at 1 meter?
This paren right here?
Like for each example?
Yeah. Or
No, I don't
an
think so. 'cause it's
IE?
just-
Okay, because some of these,
No, that's the definition.
I think it's fine.
some of these you've put in, didn't put in anything.
Okay. I think it's cool.
I think that one's
Okay.
okay, yeah.
By the decade of the 2030s, the NOAA intermediate scenario, 1 meter of GMSL rise by the year 2100, may lead to more than 169 days of flooding during the worst year of the decade. Hurricanes. Of great concern for Hawaii and Honolulu specifically is that tropical.
I had a hand up, sorry. No?
So, yep.
Yeah, it's actually for the previous section, the sea level rise section. Sorry to bring us back, but I wanted to look up the reference. When it describes the value of the coastal highway at risk,
Yep.
the story actually doesn't describe the value. Public assets usually don't have such a easy way to attribute value in this case, except it would if it's a facility. And what the story actually describes is that that's a cost estimate for
All right.
either hardening, raising, or relocating
Oh.
those segments of highway.
Mhm.
Great. Where was that?
Go down, I think you passed it. Right there, Department of Transportation has identified
It's the
risk.
final of that.
Right here?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to like write that
Can
succinctly.
you say that, those words again?
So instead of risk valued, it's the.
It's a cost of adaptation.
Okay.
38 miles of roadway at risk, comma, with the cost of adaptation estimated at $15 billion.
Yeah.
With an adaptation cost?
Sure. Of $15 billion statewide. And then someone can go to the citation for how they calculated that.
Yeah, and actually, I looked at Christine's citation for this, and she was citing, she put in a citation for like a DOT forum, so actually, maybe we should put the Civil Beat article there as well. But that's something we can do later, but if you just put a comment there, Chip, and say to put in the original Civil Beat article.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Of great concern for Hawaii and Honolulu specifically is that tropical cyclones are following new pathways that will bring them near island communities more often than has been seen historically. Climate change.
I have a hurricane to add in
Yep.
whenever we get to that section. Isel, 2014.
Say, what?
When we get to the
Oh,
hurricanes.
okay, you're ahead of me.
Yes, sorry.
Climate change is projected to cause a northward shift of hurricanes towards the Hawaiian Islands, and this may be already taking place. This shift will increase the chance of landfall, posing severe flood risk to Honolulu communities and infrastructure along the coast, as well as further inland. An increasing number of storms have tracked closer to Hawaii in recent years. When was yours, 2014?
Yeah, Isel.
So Hurricane Guillermo in 2015. Oh, so it would go in the front here.
Yeah.
Which one? Isel?
In 2014. It just matches because then we end the sentence with like the very strong El Nino 2014, 2015, and we had
Right.
nothing from 2014.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Guillermo 2015, hurricanes. Should this not be capped?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe none of the hurricanes should be capped. Should that be a? And even this one.
And then Lane and Olivia as well.
Okay, Hurricanes Celia, Darby, and Lester in 2016, and Hurricanes Lane and Olivia in 2018. During the 2015 hurricane season, a record 15 tropical cyclones entered or formed in the north central Pacific Basin. This above-average activity has been attributed in part to the very strong 2014-16 El Nino.
No comma after entered.
Entered. I have a no comma after entered?
Right? Are you saying?
Yep. Sea level rise increases the vulnerability of coastal communities to damage.
Wait, sorry, then you have to take away the comma after or formed in. Yeah.
Okay. To damage related to flooding by intense rainfall and marine storm surge associated with hurricanes. Houses, roads, and other assets are exposed to the rising threat of hurricanes through both sea level rise and new storm tracks. Seasonal high waves. On storms facing to the south, high waves produced by storminess in the southern hemisphere arrive every summer, and on shores facing to the north, high waves produced by storminess in the North Pacific arrive every winter. At present, these seasonal high waves lead to occasional flooding on the first row of beachfront homes and certain sections of coastal roads. They also drive changes in beach configuration that can lead to temporary acceleration in erosion trends. However, sea level rise is changing this historical pattern. Modeling the characteristics of these annual waves under higher sea levels reveals that between 2 to 3.2 feet of sea level rise, wave flooding reaches a critical point. Moving, did you want a different word, McKenna, than critical point?
No, I'm fine with critical.
All right, moving from being damaging to catastrophic. It is the sea level height beyond which flooding rapidly accelerates and threatens an entire beachfront community. Tsunami, the current tsunami evacuation zone is a product of modeling the flooding impact of a 1946 type tsunami and does not take into account future sea level rise. A future tsunami that may not have caused significant damage in the past will be able to penetrate further landward, cause greater damage, and poses a more significant threat because of sea level rise. Public agencies tasked with protecting public health and safety can begin to address this problem by revising coastal policies so that they decrease exposure to tsunami flooding. Commission sea level rise guidance and directive. Based on the current science, the Commission issued sea level rise guidance. The Commission recommended that the city set a planning benchmark of 3.2 feet, or about 1 meter Slerexa, of global mean sea level rise by the end of the century. High tide flooding will arrive decades earlier, and the Slerexa will be an area experiencing chronic high tide flooding by mid-century. In recognition that global emissions are on a warming pathway of over 5.4 or 3C, did we have metric outside the parens.
We did.
It's probably kind of screwed up everywhere, so why don't we do a global check on that? In the second half of this century, the commission recommended setting a planning benchmark of up to 6 feet, 1.8 meters of global mean sea level rise for projects with low risk tolerance, potentially with long expected lifespans? It says potentially due to with long expected lifespans.
Potentially with.
Yep. The commission advised that all ordinances related to land development, such as the policy plans and regulations, should be reviewed and updated as necessary.
Comma between policy plans.
Say what? Oh, policy, comma, plans, comma, and regulations. In turn, shall I make a new paragraph out of this?
Can?
In turn, the mayor's directive number 1802 to all department and agency heads says that city departments and agencies are required to use the commission's guidance for managing assets, reviewing permitting requests, and assessment project proposals. Assessing?
Sorry, the mayor's directive number is 18-2. There's no 0.
And then you can get rid of the all departments and agency heads thing. So say it says,
Says,
just delete to all departments and agency heads.
I'm sorry, spell it out for me.
So the mayor's directive number 18-2, and then delete to all departments and agency heads.
Oh,
You just say the mayor's directive 18-2 says, yeah.
okay. That city departments and agencies are required to use the commission's guidance for, quote, managing assets, reviewing permit requests, and should that be assessing project proposals? Yeah. Or assessment of project.
Assessment of, I must have said.
Project proposals. As well as, quote, develop place-specific guidance for shoreline policy changes. Period. Revising ROH, chapter 23. To incorporate and reflect management decisions based on the science of climate change and sea level rise is critically important to meeting the directive. All good?
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing?
We're live.
We're almost.
We're almost
okay,
there.
Good. In 1972, the U.S. Congress passed the Coastal Zone Management Act, CZMA, to, quote, preserve, protect, develop, and where possible to restore or enhance the resources of the nation's coastal zone, quote, and there's a citation. After the National CZM program was established in 1977, several states opted to participate in a federal-local partnership designed to encourage states to create coastal management plans and policies to foster federal, state, and local cooperation. Under this new paragraph?
Sure. And cooperative is misspelled, but I also think we could just take it away.
Under this structure, states have established shoreline setbacks using various types of criteria. How about various criteria?
Mm-hmm.
These include methods that are erosion rate based. The width of the no-build zone is calculated based on the annual rate of coastal erosion.
Do we want to get rid of, we've taken no
Yep.
build out of a lot of other areas.
Should we just say the setback? Setback, one word?
One word.
As calculated, right. Fixed distance, a fixed distance such as used by the city determines the width of the setback.
I think we can just start with such as used by the city.
determines the setback. Or did you want width?
It's fine.
That's fine.
Or use some other criteria such as distances from coastal landforms, e.g. dunes, application of multiple criteria depending on site-specific conditions, or guided by existing development. For a summary of shoreline setbacks across coastal U.S. states, see Appendix 1. To manage the coastal zone in Hawaii, the state created the shoreline setback, HRS 205A, to be not less than 20 feet and not more than 40 feet inland from the shoreline, which is the highest annual reach of the waves. State conservation districts have a setback of 40 feet plus 70 times the average annual coastal erosion rate. For structures with average lot depth greater than 200 feet.
In that sentence previously,
Yep.
after 40 foot inland from the shoreline,
Yep.
which is the highest annual reach, should it be which was the highest annual reach?
True.
All the definitions of shoreline say the shoreline is.
But if we're talking about,
Setback
the
from
setback
the highest end.
was created to be the highest annual reach of the waves, which is no longer
Mhm.
stationary. So it's an old, it was the highest annual reach of the waves.
The
and now
shoreline?
it's different. This is the setback. The setback,
They created the setback to be not less.
From the shoreline, and that's,
the
which is.
shoreline is the highest annual reach of the waves?
Yeah.
Or the-
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This.
Yeah, that's the definition of the shoreline.
Yep.
Okay.
Keep it?
But Matt, do you had a comment as well?
No, I better understand the sentence then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was confused by the sentence.
I think it's okay.
Okay. State conservation districts have a setback of 40 feet plus 70 times the average annual coastal erosion rate for structures with average lot depth greater than 200 feet. HRS Chapter 205A-45 allows counties to increase their, this is a new paragraph maybe?
Okay.
Allows counties to increase their setback beyond 40 feet from the shoreline. Maui and Kauai counties have changed their shoreline setbacks in recognition that 40 feet does not offer sufficient protection from coastal hazards. Both Kauai and Maui have adopted erosion rate-based setbacks using a combination of criteria: the rate of historical shoreline change or the average depth of the lot. Have adopted setbacks based on multiple criteria.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Colon, the rate of historical shoreline change or the average depth of the lot. On Kauai, the shoreline setback determination for lots, included in the Kauai coastal erosion study is.
Actually, I don't understand that. Isn't it just what it is in there? It shouldn't be
On
honest.
Kauai econ, is that what you mean? Should just start with the.
They actually use that study reference.
In their, it's referenced in their planning
Look at
document,
that.
or in their policy.
Holy
Wow.
cow. What is going on there?
I think that's the footnote.
We might wanna look at the footnotes real quick.
Is that like the entire appendix in there?
I think that's the footnote.
Oh, I see what happened is, wait a minute. Oh, look at that, 31, 31, 31, 31, 31.
It'll get fixed.
That maybe doesn't make sense.
No, maybe.
She did include in her email that there were some that were repeating themselves and she didn't know why, and anyways, that's something we can fix
Yep.
afterwards.
I just wanted to note that the first Kauai is spelled correctly and the second Kauai isn't. The
This one
Okina- Yeah,
is
the
not?
Okina there is spelled correctly. The second one for Kauai Coastal Erosion Study, the Okina is going the wrong way.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe rather than included, for lots of it's something like described, because it's not, the study doesn't determine the setback, is all I'm saying, right? The policy does.
Yes, but it's for lots in the study.
Okay.
It's not for all lots on the, still, it's a level of detail that doesn't really need to be
Yeah, it's kind of
here.
irrelevant. We can kind
So,
of glaze
on
over
Kauai,
it.
the shoreline setback
Is.
is, and was this the offending reference to? Should I just
31, yeah.
say aloha to that? Is,
Yeah.
okay,
Whatever, like-
40 feet plus, so we just say 70 times?
Mhm.
Or a distance of 70 times the annual coastal erosion rate plus 20 feet safety buffer from the certified shoreline for lots with a,
I think a distance of.
Mhm.
Just add A.
louder?
Add A distance. Oh, don't delete distance.
40 feet plus a distance of plus 20 feet. Should I like paren that or something? Oh, this is complicated. What's going on here?
Delete the word certified. I know it's in a lot of county documents, but we didn't define it above, and we only defined it as the shoreline. It's the same thing.
Plus, how about if we say a 20-foot safety buffer measured from the shoreline for lots with a depth of less than, for lots with a depth less than 140 feet.
Mhm.
For lots with average depth of 140 to 220, the greater distance of the two applies. 40 feet plus 70 times the annual coastal erosion rate plus 20 feet.
Holy moly.
Or taking the average lot depth, subtracting 100 feet, dividing by 2 plus 40 feet.
Yeah, that's right.
Simple. For lots with average lot depth over 220 feet, the greater of the two shall apply, that is 40 feet plus 70 times the annual erosion rate plus 20 feet, or a setback of 100 feet from the certified shoreline.
And you want to delete certified there too, McKenna?
Yes.
Yeah, just because we never defined it.
Okay.
Should I put a comma before the or?
Previous bullet as well.
Okay, home stretch.
On Maui, all lots have a shoreline setback that is the greater of the distances between the shoreline as calculated under the methods listed. I just totally drowned in that sentence. The greater, all lots have a shoreline setback that is the greater of, how's that?
That's better.
Yes.
25 feet plus a distance of 50 times the annual erosion hazard rate from the or based on the lot depth, lots with average depth of 100 feet or less shall have a setback of 25 feet. Lots with average depth greater than 100 feet but less than 160 feet shall have a setback of 40 feet.
Period. There's periods everywhere else.
Lots with average depth greater than 160 feet shall have a setback of 25% of the average lot depth, but not greater than 150 feet. For irregularly shaped lots, the setback shall be equivalent to 25% of the lot depth as determined by the director to a maximum of 150 feet from the shoreline.
Should we say the director of what? Since-
Director of Planning.
Maui County Director of Planning?
Yeah, this whole thing is Maui.
Okay.
Table 1 below summarizes the current setback policies for Hawaii's 4 counties. Do we not have a diacritical here? Because it's plural.
No, there is one.
No, there is one.
You put diacriticals in anglicized versions of words? I was taught not to do that.
I only ever don't put a diacritical when it says Hawaiian. I put diacriticals every other time. You have it above too. You've put Hawaii's above. You put there are Okinas up above.
Not me.
Okay, there are Okinas up above.
I think it goes.
I think it goes.
Well, alrighty.
Thanks.
God, that is a dry and leaves you hanging ending, but there we are.
No,
we're
that's
all
not the
done.
end.
That's not the end.
Well,
There's
that's
more.
just a table.
Keep
No,
going.
yeah, yeah,
Oh.
there's
No,
more.
there's
There's more. That's not the
I know,
end.
you got excited for a second.
We're almost. Do you want to
Sorry,
switch
I'm
off
not
reading?
excited. Matt
Yeah,
just
wait,
like
Chip. Do you want to switch off reading or no?
Sure, you're probably tired of my voice, so
Oh, all right.
go for it.
All right. We're not gonna read the table 1, right?
No.
Okay. So, oh
The
goodness.
table seems to be behaving itself now, so you can delete the insert table 1 here, which is right below it.
Below the table.
Okay.
Delete, she's added that.
Erosion hazard line. Among the model results presented in the Hawaii Sea Level Rise, gotta switch the title, Vulnerability and Adaptation Report. Is an erosion hazard line, EHL, representing the 80% probability of erosion with 3.2 feet of global mean sea level rise. The EHL is being proposed by the Maui County Planning Department as the basis for a new setback. Because it is available on the Pakayu site as a downloadable GIS layer, it is useful for planning and design. It represents the best available science for managing the erosion problem in a future characterized by accelerating sea level rise. Maui County is proposing the following shoreline rule amendments. 1, in areas where the EHL is mapped, the setback is the EHL plus 40 feet. 2, in areas without the EHL and with no certified shoreline survey, do you want certified? Or, yeah, in that case, we keep it? Okay. The setback is 200 feet from the shoreline as mapped by the department. 3, in areas without the EHL and with a certified shoreline survey.
Here, we don't need it.
Okay. The setback is based on the lot depth, as in the current rules. 4, in areas without the EHL with irregularly shaped lots or cliffs or not mapped by the department, the setback is 25% of the lot depth. The EHL is determined in part by historical rates of shoreline change derived from analysis of orthorectified aerial photogrammetry. This time series begins with imagery collected prior to World War II and is periodically updated.
Can we just
Is
check
there
the
a citation?
Sorry.
Sorry, Rosie, go ahead.
Oh, that's it. No, I was like the citation on that.
So we need a citation.
I think so.
Yep.
And then can we check the citation that's in, that Christine added? I just want to see what she put in
Where is it?
for the public meeting. Yeah, 36, just so we can scroll over that to see what it is. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
This is
What?
they're structured slightly differently, and the rules actually sit with the planning commission. So there was a reference later to the department's
Oh, above.
basis. So I don't honestly know what's correct and what's not. Just maybe a note to double check consistency with how Maui County distinguishes between the commission and the department.
So the EHL is being proposed by the Maui County Planning Department. You think this is the part that we have to?
Yeah, I'm just not certain. The rules actually sit with the commission.
Can you highlight that? Well, that can be something we find out, I think.
So, that sentence that says the EHL is being proposed by Maui County Planning Department, is that what you mean?
Yeah, just the Maui County Planning Department. I
Yeah,
think we
is
should
that
be
the
clear.
department or the planning commission?
Sorry, I'm confused.
Right there.
Should I add some language here?
No, just highlight it and we'll do a fact finding about it
Yeah,
afterwards, and we can change that one word if it should be commission, not
Maybe-
department.
mhm. Three.
Can we write in summary of ROH?
Is this all caps?
I think so.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. Okay.
ROH Chapter 3 is the shoreline setback provision for the city. The purpose of ROH Chapter 23 is to establish standards and to authorize the Department of Land Utilization, now DPP, to adopt the rules pursuant to HRS Chapter 91, which generally prohibit, within the shoreline area, any construction or any activity which may adversely affect beach processes, public access along the shoreline, or shoreline open space. ROH Chapter 23 states that it is the quote, primary policy of the city to protect and preserve the natural shoreline, especially sandy beaches, to protect and preserve public pedestrian access laterally. Can I just skip this part? Was it a copy paste? Okay. Okay. ROH 23 establishes the setback at 40 feet inland from the shoreline. In the case of shallow lots where the depth of the buildable area of a lot is less than 30 feet, the setback is the setback adjusted to allow a minimum depth of buildable area of 30 feet, provided that the adjusted shoreline setback line shall be no less than 20 feet from the certified shoreline. In the case of a new subdivision or consolidation of land, new lots must accommodate a 60-foot setback. Variances. ROH 23 provides authority to the Director of DPP to grant variances for structures or activities within the setback. For instance, I can't, there's a weird clipboard thing.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm just gonna, yeah. A variance may be awarded for structures or activities that meet a public interest standard, ergo, harbors, airports, etc., or a hardship standard. The hardship standard is triggered if an applicant would be deprived of reasonable use of land if required to comply fully with the shoreline setback ordinance and the shoreline setback rules. A key aspect of the hardship standard is determination of reasonable use of the land. In past practice, reasonable use of the land was found to include improvements such as roads, habitable dwellings, and even the intention of future habitation where no existing improvement was actually threatened.
I think you can delete the comment. I think Christine added the citation.
Under these conditions, discretionary allowances have been made for seawalls, revetments, and other shoreline hardening structures that clearly undermine the primary policy objective to protect and preserve the natural shoreline, especially sandy beaches, to protect and preserve, blah, blah, blah.
It's very redundant. We can just say the primary policy objective because we just had it above. We just
Okay.
period.
So,
Help me, say that again?
Just period after the primary policy objective and delete the rest of the sentence.
Delete the quote
yeah,
all the way to here?
yeah. There is an abundant body of published scientific research documenting the negative effects of shoreline hardening, including beach narrowing and beach loss of littoral biodiversity, and other impacts. However, the hardship variance allows damaging land use practices that damage shorelines. Oh, that sounds a little bit redundant.
Definitely.
Maybe just allows land use practices that damage shorelines. Due to the existence of rising sea level and increasing risk from changes in coastal hazards, there is a critical need to limit the granting of variances in order to increase coastal resiliency.
I'm not getting references here. What, oh, it's weird. So, yeah, this needs editing.
The references.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where? Are my comments?
Just at the heading of the section, maybe.
Oh,
You mean like just put a comment,
Yeah,
like
I'm
check
works
these out?
cited, check references.
there we go.
3741.
Yeah, she sent me a note saying they were being kind of funny, and she was hoping that after everything was accepted, they would be well behaving, so we can go back.
Yeah, it's amazing how they misbehave.
Okay. Conclusions. Beaches and coastlines are an integral component of the lives of people in Hawaii. These are places of cultural practice, food harvesting, and recreation. The existing setback policy was built on the assumption that within an envelope of variability, the shoreline would largely hold its position through time. However, long-term sea level
Envelope
rise...
misspelled.
Oh, envelope with an E? Or needs an E?
Oh, yeah, not envelope.
Envelope. However, long-term sea level rise dramatically undermines this assumption, and revising ROH 23 is a necessary component of adjusting to greater variability within the coastal zone. With climate change, rising sea levels, and increasing intensity of coastal hazards, it is clear that coastal zone management policies need to be updated to accurately reflect current understanding of climate change and its impacts to nearshore environments and public health and safety. Research has shown that coastal development activity and beach stability are negatively correlated. Within the system of current coastal policies, accelerated sea level rise triggers a number of consequences: shifts in government jurisdiction and land ownership, erosion and land loss that threaten human communities and their assets, threats to sensitive coastal ecosystems, especially beaches, and increased exposure to hazards such as storms, seasonal high waves, tsunami, and extreme tides. It is on this basis that the Commission recommends revisions to ROH 23 as summarized in the beginning of this guidance document. Yeah.
All right, should we go back to the recommendations, because we actually haven't reread them? Sorry.
Final, after
We
that.
haven't actually what?
Reread them?
We haven't, well, we like went through them, but should we
Okay.
read them?
Vicky's turn.
All right, recommendation number 1, include a background section on the science of climate change and sea level rise. This is important to acknowledge that the coastal zone is one of dynamic processes, and to